I think the world is in a challenged place right now. I think most people would agree that there's a lot of division. There's a lot of challenges that we face. And, the bottom line is, who's going to fix this? It's not going to be us, because we're getting older, and the problems are getting worse. If we're going to have a better earth with more compassion, with more unity, with more collaboration, with more abundance, it's really going to have to be our children that carry that torch.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Mental Purpose Podcast. Super excited to have you here because today, well, like all of them, they're all special to me. And this one's really special because this guy, my guest, Mike McCarthy, has been a crucial, pivotal, influential, important person to me in my growth and development as a man, but especially as a leader and a father and a husband. And I met Mike, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago at my first GoBundance event. And if you don't know what GoBundance is, you can check it out online. It's a really cool mastermind and networking organization for high performance guys and women. And, I saw Mike sitting on stage and I thought, man, like that guy's got his stuff together, man. How do I get there? How do I do that? And then I joined Mike for what's called Fambundance, and we started this cool relationship. And it wasn't like super close or anything, but I learned so much from Mike and his wife, Lindsay, really as parents and as business owners and as husband and wife, as a couple, and really took their teachings and stuff that they were learning and implemented it in my relationship with my daughter at the time, with my wife, with our business, with our employees, and really realized the depth and meaning that the legacy you leave is literally nothing unless you are actually shifting and leading and growing yourself to be a better human, to show people how to be better humans. I always thought it was money. So today, Mike and I are going to be talking about legacy. First and foremost, before we get rolling, if you haven't already, which I don't know why you haven't, there's so many people that listen to this podcast, you got to take action. You want to be on purpose? You got to take action. Go to the Mental Purpose community on Facebook, join, and just live with us in this ecosystem. I mean, guys are getting so much out of this freaking group because it's a place that they know they can go and trust that they're safe, that they can talk about the shit they're going through. They can talk about their feelings and be vulnerable, maybe for the first time in their lives, and actually know that they're supported and actually know that they're held. And there's a solid foundation for them to build off of, because we've got content and curriculum. We've got our mastermind that launches like every 2 weeks based on our demand. And that is truly amazing. It's a 90-day program with Aaron and I, live coaching, 14 calls. You get the curriculum, you get the alumni group. I mean, there's so many cool things about what we're putting together. We've got courses, we've got all kinds of stuff for people. Depends on where you are. And we'll find something that'll meet you where you are and you can roll. So if you haven't already joined, push pause, go join it. The Mental Purpose community right now on Facebook. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, the Mental Purpose Podcast, on wherever you listen, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever. So check it out. I'll give you a little bit about my experience with Mike. And, Mike's just a good person. And listen, is Mike perfect? No, none of us are. But Mike has just been that guy in my life that I can look up to and solidly trust. I mean, look, there are other people in my life that do this for me, but Mike's been one of those guys. And I think, in all honesty, he didn't know about it in the beginning. But that's one of the secrets that we're going to talk about, is whether it's your family, your employees, your neighbor, your friends. If you're a leader, if you're a man on purpose, or you're becoming a man on purpose, everybody's watching you. And not in the people are watching me, what are they thinking of me phase or sense. They're watching you as a model. They're looking at how you conduct your business. They're looking at how you conduct yourself in public, with your family, the things that you say you're committed to and then follow through on. People are watching you. Just when we think that our lives are shit and we're envious of someone else, I 100% guarantee you that someone is watching your life right now saying, God, I wish I could be that dude or that woman. I guarantee that. And so Mike was that guy for me. And I looked at him and I knew that he was committed and his integrity was so strong to his personal growth that I could trust that I could follow him. And I could trust that I could model after him because I knew he wouldn't let me down. I knew he wouldn't stop growing. I knew his mission was big. And so to have him on the podcast is special. It's really cool. So I'm going to read you Mike's bio so you can get a little deeper sense of who Mike is. And then we'll get rolling. The episode's awesome. We're going to talk about parenting. We're going to talk about Mike's new book, the Miracle Morning for Families Playbook. That's right. Like Mike and his wife, Lindsay, did a project with Hal Elrod and wrote the Miracle Morning for Families a couple years ago. And now they've got a new edition coming out that you want to get, which is very practical and tactical, just a playbook to get you right into action. We're going to talk about hustle culture and those dangers. We talk about that a lot. We're going to talk about counterbalance versus balance, the surface, clarity on legacy, challenging entrepreneurs to really understand what that is beyond money. And really, like the episode says, this is a purposeful parent playbook. So whether or not you're a parent, you're going to get something out of this. But if you are a parent, you're going to get a lot more out of this. But Mike drops wisdom the entire time. He's super smart, dialed in. I really enjoy this episode and just watching Mike evolve and being a model of a man on purpose for me and for a lot of other guys out there. So Mike McCarthy is a husband, he's a father, and a serial entrepreneur. Over the past 2 decades, he is grateful to have played a major role in the growth and expansion of Keller Williams to become the #1 real estate company in the world. And as a regional operating partner for the greater Pennsylvania region, he is proud to lead 10,000 agents. That's right, 10,000 agents under Mike in over 50 locations and over 20 billion with a B in real estate sales in 2020 alone. Mike's the co-founder of GoBundance Mastermind, like I was talking about earlier, the co-author of the Tribe of Millionaires book with David Osborne and Pat Hyben, the Miracle Morning for Parents and Families, and the accompanying family playbook, which is what we're talking about today. He's a group facilitator and a motivational speaker. He's passionate about sharing wisdom that helps entrepreneurial families increase collaboration and connection, co-create shared values and goals, and form rituals and traditions that help them thrive together. Mike's just an amazing guy. You guys are going to love this episode. And look, I love your feedback. Absolutely love your feedback. The one that we did, I don't know when this is going to come out, but back in November, on the 15th, we released Akshay Nanavati's episode. Your feedback was incredible, absolutely incredible. And it helps me understand my course and whether we need to shift pattern or try something different or stay on course. You guys are telling us to stay on course. So I really appreciate that. Really grateful for that. So this is Mike McCarthy's episode. It's really packed. So seriously, pen and paper. I'm not joking. Pen and paper. Because people who are on purpose, they not only take action, but they're coachable and they constantly are seeking new education from any source they can. So I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you on every episode. Enjoy. All right, Mike, welcome, dude. It's interesting that you and I are talking because we've known each other for 6 years, something like that. We were just talking about this, but I remember I came to the first GoBundance event that I'd ever been to in I think Tahoe in maybe 2016, the beginning of 2016. And I see you up there on stage, and in my mind, I'm like, how do I meet those guys? How do I get to those guys? I want the guys that are running the show. And then you fast forward over the last, let's just say year, maybe 2017, I did Fambundance with you. Yeah. And then this year, the dynamic has changed. And it's just an interesting concept I like to think about because people kind of come in and out of your life and come back into your life based on how you evolve, not the effort you put into the actual relationship. But you and I are now sitting here like this, collaborating on your new projects and your mission, which serves my mission because of our own growth points in our lives, our own personal growth. And I think that's just a really special thing.
Yeah, man, it's great. We never know what the universe holds for us, but it wants the best for us, and it tends to line up the things that are important at the right time, in the right place. And sometimes when we try to force it, or make it happen, it can actually work against us. There's a lot to be said for going with the flow. And that can be counterintuitive in sort of the hustle culture of today of let's drive it, let's make it happen, let's control it. But I think at every point, some entrepreneurs will realize that they've got to let go of some attachment, let go of some control, and really pay attention to what's showing up, because there's greater forces at work in our lives than our own minds and our own will. So
yeah, well, let's talk about that for a second, because there's a lot of guys that are going to listen to this, guys that that you're going to kind of attract to the podcast to hear this episode, and obviously our audience. That hustle culture, I think, is, and we talk about this all the time. I had a really good conversation with Chris Lockhead about it. That hustle culture is dangerous, especially for younger guys who don't have the experience of knowing that surrender and flow needs to happen in a business, and in stages and certain times has to happen. What do you think people need to do, or like, what do you think people can do to take that step back? Meanwhile, their habits are like, go, hustle, grind. What are the detriments there? And then what can people do to start to tailor that back so they can actually maybe get their life back,
Yeah, I mean, well, you've got to have some form of balance. And, balance is a bit of an illusion, as we learn, or I've learned from Gary Keller. It's really counterbalancing. So like, even when a ballerina is standing on their tippy toes, in that position that we've all seen, they're not really just stationary. They're actually making slight balances in order to maintain what looks like total balance, but it's counterbalancing. And I think that's what we have to realize. And I think what you have to do is carve out the time for self-care, for silence, for reflection, and make sure that you almost make that your priority. That's what's so beautiful about what Hal Elrod put together was, obviously getting up early and working on yourself and meditating and all of the things that Hal teaches. They're all good practices, but he really packaged them into, 6 exercises that you should do every morning, and really challenge people to do that for 1 hour. And so if you think about it in terms of, well, if you can work on yourself for an hour a week or an hour a day, what does that look like? And I think we have to look at that as self-leadership, right? That's when we take care of ourselves, we learn what we need to learn, we evolve, we journal, we reflect upon our vision and our goals and what we want. And then I also think there's something to be said for where you're at in your journey. There's definitely been a time when I've had to hustle. I've had to put in long hours, but you've got to balance that with, well, if I spend 3 months working on the launch of a book, I also need to go on 3 week-long trips with my family where we're just hanging out with family and carve that time out, or week to week, at a minimum, be carving out an hour to sit down with your family, which is part of what we'll get into with the new playbook we released, but carving out that hour once a week, or, every couple weeks, because we don't hit ours every single week. We're not perfect, but I think you've got to carve out the time daily, weekly, monthly to really focus on what matters most. Then you have the energy and the strength to hustle and go all in on the things that matter. Otherwise, we're just constantly working because we want to put in the hustle level of work, which is like 12, 16-hour days. And it becomes a badge of honor, like how much I worked today. But it's not really about how much you work or the hours you put in. It's really the results that you get. And you want to be happy with those results too. So if you're tired, you're exhausted, you're stressed, your family's upset with you because you're never home, like, how could you possibly enjoy the success that you're having in that scenario? So,
yeah. What's really interesting is I learned that lesson the hard way. My first year, like, I really had been in personal development since like 20 2013 when I first, 2012 is when I got into real estate. And I was in Dale Carnegie training before that with my dad's business, but I never saw it as personal development. I saw it as professional development.
Yeah.
And I wasn't working on me. I was working on my skills, externally. And then 2016 was the year that I was like, man, I'm going balls deep on this thing. But what I did was I hustled personal development. And most people who know me know this story. Like I read 65 books and I, spent $100,000 and I went to every freaking seminar and everything that you guys did and everything that Tony Robbins did and everything Landmark did. And I got to the end of the year and my wife said, yeah, I'm pretty much done with this. I think we should probably move on from this marriage. And all I could think was, yeah, but I did the work. And that's when I learned the very big difference between who you are and what you do, and the being and the doing of life. And from that time forward, I really realized that I was hustling as a avoidance of pain and fear.
Yeah.
And from that point on, like that just didn't work anymore at all. And the relationships changed and the business changed because I slowed down and started focusing and making me a priority. But before that, like many guys who are listening to this, I didn't give a shit about me. I was a cog in the wheel. I was my own cog in my own wheel. I was a provider for the family. That's your job. Do that or you're worthless, and do it at a high level or you're a loser, and keep up with these guys or you're nothing. And that's it. And that was my thought process. And it's from nobody but me. But that's how I thought. And the hustle could have ruined my family. Now, like there are many times I have 6 businesses. Like I hustle. Starting this podcast, I hustled. Building our curriculum for Mental Purpose and Frontrunner, I hustled. But I also counterbalanced that, like you said earlier, with downtime, like days and days and days where I don't do anything. Weekends that I don't touch my phone. Mondays where I call people, I'm like, hey, I'm not doing anything today. See ya. We cancel my meetings because I have to counterbalance. It's a great point about counterbalance. So then what was like, I kind of want to get into your background a little bit. What was that like pivotal point for you? Like where was the pivotal point? Was it 15 years ago? Was it 10 years ago, 5 years ago, where you said, man, I need to make a drastic change in my life here?
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of opposed to working with my father because we had grown up and he was a tough leader. He was tough on me. And my mom and he both worked a lot. They were gone a lot. And so I really didn't want to work with my dad. That wasn't what I set out to do. And when I graduated college, I joined him as his assistant, sort of begrudgingly. Like I had my license, but I also wasn't making any money yet. And I was sort of at a crossroads, and I started working with him as his assistant, and he had just begun developing the Keller Williams franchises in Pennsylvania, Southern Jersey, and Delaware. And I started to help him out with that. And my job was to sort of map out the territories and look at how many franchises could we have. And then in those territories, I would figure out who the top agents were. And then I would cold call those top agents, set up meetings, and my dad and I would go out there and meet with them. And then I learned the process of how to recruit, how to launch a franchise, how to really walk somebody through that. And it was supported by a lot of great training from Keller Williams as well. So my job on some level was pretty simple, but what changed for me and turned on the sort of light bulb for wanting to hustle was when I crunched all the numbers and I looked at the opportunity, and I was like, holy crap. Like, cause we were coming from Colorado, which had like 16 franchises and didn't have room for many more. And I was able to count like at least 50 franchises that we could for sure do in this other territory. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm all in on Keller Williams, working with my dad, even though, we still butted heads and everything, but I was all in. And that's when I really hustled for, a good decade or longer of like making my calls every day, setting big goals, like doing my thing. And, some point in like a couple years in, my dad and I had butted heads so many times. He was kind of like, hey, if you think you can lead this thing, then go for it. And I'll move to Florida and you handle all the recruiting and all of the launching of market centers. And it was me and one other employee who we still work with and have on our team today, Paula Hafe. She's an amazing leader. And it was just her and I, launching these franchises. And, somewhere along the way though, Ian, just to bring it back full circle, is I became a young regional director. I won sales awards for number of franchises sold. I made our region much bigger than the original region that we were partners in, Colorado. We bought our partner out of Pennsylvania and he bought us out of Colorado. And really everything that I had been working on for 10 years came to fruition. But there was a point in time when I sort of looked up and I said, is this really it? I thought I would feel amazing if I got to this point. Why am I not feeling fulfilled? Why am I not happy? Why am I even borderline depressed? And the reality is that I hadn't taken care of myself along that journey. I had only hustled, and I was eating fast food. I was probably drinking too much, and I actually weighed 195 pounds when I sort of had this breakthrough, which is pretty heavy for a guy that's 5'8". So I had put on some pounds. It wasn't muscle either, I could tell you that much. But I finally looked in the mirror and I was like, I need to ask for help. I think that's a big deal for men, especially, is to say, hey, even though it looks like externally I have all this success and have been given a great opportunity and then capitalized on that opportunity. But I really needed to slow down. I hired a coach that I still work with today, actually, named Janai Lane. And she worked with me on being more still, surrendering, healing some of my old traumas and my old identities, having more compassion for myself and for others. And that's when I began to really find my true and higher purpose in life versus just the one that was societal or family driven, which was I wanted to prove to my dad I could do this. I also wanted society to see me as successful. And in some ways, I wanted to get out from underneath the shadow of my father because he had led me into this business. And so I realized that I needed to leave that all in the past, be grateful for it and move forward. And that's when I really started having more and more success building a team around me and giving more of the credit and even the opportunity to others other than myself. And, now we have a really badass team in the Keller Williams Greater Pennsylvania region. John Clyde, Michelle McBride, Paula Hafe, George Kelly, Chris Stevens. These are all people that are now on our team helping to lead the region. And they just do an amazing job. But I had to really get out of my own way and find out what made me happy. It wasn't actually the selling of the franchises part or checking the box on all of the goals. It was actually seeing other people grow into opportunities and watching the business grow through other people instead of putting it all on my own back and making it happen.
Yeah, dude, I feel you on that because I worked with my dad for my entire life until I was 29 years old. Became very successful, very wealthy in my 20s, and then lost it all at 29 and thought, well, it was the economy, kind of a victim mindset. And then getting into real estate, I kind of ran that same pattern of, well, I'm worthless unless I'm providing at a high level. Same thing you described. And it was only until I learned that you only win real wealth through others is when my business really started to change. But I got to a certain place and that my net worth hit a certain level my business hit a certain level, my income hit a certain level. And I was like, where's the party? Where's the balloons and streamers? And like, where's the champagne? And why aren't people celebrating me? And why is there not a limo outside? Like, I did it. And I realized, like, no one cares. Nobody gives a shit. You have to care. And I realized that, like, I wasn't fulfilled. And I feel you on that. Like, I actually got more depressed because I had just spent 2 years nose down, building, grinding, hustling, and leaving everything else behind that I should have been paying attention to, or just not paying attention to it. And I know that's going to ring true with a lot of guys who are listening to this, because we're taught that. We're taught that hustle culture. We're taught that, like, just grind it out. You got retirement. Maybe in 10 years, you can start taking some vacations. And then what? You just built a habit. I had this conversation at our front runner event last weekend. You just built a habit for 20 years of grinding and hustling. You think that the day you hit it, that you're just going to go and sit on the beach somewhere? Like, it doesn't work like that. You're going to sit there for a week and then go, oh, maybe I can sell surfboards over there. And then you're going to grind and hustle that. And it just doesn't work. I think your message is exactly what guys need to hear, especially in this day and age, where technology is more prevalent than ever. Leverage is more prevalent than ever. Education is more prevalent than ever. Like, there's no reason to live in the shit, in the trauma, in the past conditions, in the shadows. There's no reason to do that anymore. You literally can, you have so many resources. This podcast is only one of millions of resources that can teach you or lead you or guide you to getting out of your own way and actually opening up this life that you want, that doesn't include all the stuff that you just don't like anymore. So I'm glad you brought that up, man. Really glad you brought that up. And asking for help and hiring a coach was probably the hardest thing that I had to do, because I had to realize that, or I realized, again, like, I had to get out of my dad's shadow. I realized that the only reason I went into business with my dad was because, one, I loved him and really wanted to be around him all the time. And two, I didn't think that I could create what he had created. I didn't think that I was ever going to be as good as him and build a business like him and create a life that, lifestyle for our family that he created for me and my mom. So I didn't know that until years later, that insecurity was running through me, but I self-discovered that by getting all the other stuff out of my way. And that was just, that was a game changer, a big game changer. And that's when the mental and purpose world, the big coaching world, like, that's when that opened up and said, hey, you're not going to win through selling real estate anymore. You're going to win through helping people sell real estate, coaching. And you're going to help other men win through being able to speak with their wives openly and value themselves and say, yeah, I am worth it to get up an hour earlier before my kids and actually do something for myself. Even if it's just sit there and listen to a motivational, thing for 10 minutes. You're building a habit of valuing you. And that's the only way this thing works. In a sustainable manner. You can hustle and grind this thing until you die, but it's going to be miserable. Absolutely going to be miserable. So I love that, man. Like, I know I've known you for a long time, and I haven't heard all those details of the story, but now it's like a full circle. And I love hearing your journey. And, there's so much to be proud of, but you weren't proud of yourself for a long time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was just tough to, because sometimes you don't know what you really want, right? I mean, you got to get a lot of clarity, and, coaching helps with that so much. Now I have a coach for almost everything. I have a relationship coach that my wife and I talk to every other week. I have a coach that works with me on letting go of the past and childhood trauma. I have a spiritual healer, a coach that I work with, the one that I mentioned earlier. And then I have a personal trainer that I work with. I have a nutritionist that I work with. So you start to realize, like, there are people out there that can help you get to where you want to go faster, and also help you to get clear on what it is you really want. Because I think, oftentimes we're letting other outside forces inform us as to what we really want. And the reality is we got to go deep within ourselves and figure out who are we really. If we strip away father, regional director, regional owner, co-founder of this or that, and we strip away all these identities, what's really left? There's a human being in there that has gifts, has talents, has things that only they can do. And I think it's our duty to really strip away those outside layers that we build up and find out, who am I truly at my core? And once we do, then we can find those talents, those strengths, those passions, and we can go deliver them in the world in a way that is so fulfilling that it doesn't even matter what kind of money you're making, or if anybody even is giving you kudos or credit for it, because it's just intrinsic, coming from within, the feeling of fulfillment, because you're giving something, and in turn you're getting what you really need. Is like, I'm making a difference, I'm on my purpose, I'm walking the path that God intended me to walk. And I think so many people get lost in what society wants, what their parents want, what marketing tells us we need. We're bombarded with all of these things that we think matter, and social media just amplifies all of that BS massively too. So we've got to get internal and really figure out, who are we, what do we want? And it's not so easy. It takes time and it takes patience. I think sometimes we're taught, like, oh, you figure out what you want to do, you pick a vocation, you go do that, and it's so easy. But it's not so easy, really, to find something that's truly in line with your heart and where you want to spend your hours, because we only have so many hours on this planet, only so many days, hours, weeks, and then we're gone. And what do we leave when we're gone? It's how we made people feel, it's the impact that we've had on others, and maybe a legacy that has to do with wealth or businesses, but also it goes beyond that. It's like, what did we teach our children? What values did we instill in them? What character strengths did we really help them develop? And then did we help them find their passion? Because, a lot of times, an entrepreneur might figure that out for themselves and be off chasing it, but do they slow down and really help their children to discover that, if they have children? Sometimes they outsource that to, just one half of the family, so the spouse is responsible for it, and then, or they outsource it to the spouse and to the school, or just the school, and we know the school's not going to teach purpose and goal setting and relationships and all the things that matter most. So it's an interesting dilemma, and it's interesting how the world works so counterintuitively, right? It just doesn't always add up. 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4. You've got to look for the miracle within everything, and understand that we're so blessed to be here living. Like, the chances of us being alive, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's like, to have made it and be alive as a human being, one that's fully capable too, like, the odds are really stacked against us. So we got to be grateful for the fact that we have a chance to live our purpose and be here.
How old there's so many good things in that. I will open that up. The legacy piece, I think, is it was my turning point when I realized, like, my focus was on money as a legacy. And my dad said to me, you've never felt regret and depression until you realize that you've wasted a lifetime doing something that you didn't like. You'll never know what that's like. And I don't think he was talking from personal experience, a little bit maybe, but he said a legacy isn't about money. Result is money. Like, money just gets left because a great legacy is there. The focus isn't, I want to leave my kids $5 million so they can do whatever. It's, I want to make sure that my kids are so damn set up for financial literacy and understanding how to set goals and practice self-care and discipline and chase their dreams and have a vision and all those things. Oh, and by the way, as like a little cherry on top, here's $5 million. You know what I mean? To get you rolling, but you set them up for success, not for basically ultimate failure, which is what happens if you look at statistics. Most of the guys that leave big money to their kids, the kids blow it. 1, they're not trained. 2, they're pissed off because they didn't get what they wanted from the parents. And all the kids wanted was love and attention and affection and education, like proper education, not schooling, but real education. Like, what was that turning point for you in your life? Did you have kids yet, or was it before kids where you were like, okay, I'm making a serious pivot here?
Well, I mean, I think really for me to become the kind of person who could have my children and attract my wife, I had to go do a lot of work on myself. And I think through doing that and getting to a point where I was relatively good at leading my own self, that's really when God blessed me with an amazing wife and two beautiful children. And then a lot of the real learning began, right? Because now it's like one thing to lead yourself, but then you've also got to be able to lead in your family. And I believe in leadership being a team effort. I don't think that any one person should necessarily be the leader of anything. I think leadership is a team sport. And so it's really about how do we collaborate as a couple and as a family. But I think, a turning point for me around this was probably when I first met you, and I had become the CEO of GoBundance back in 2015. And I took the torch and ran with it for 3 years and developed a lot of the programs and things that still exist today, like Fambundance and GoPods and some of those, the way that we do events. And when I took that role, I was only enabled to do that because I had a great team around me in my real estate business. And so I took this role, and about a month in, I looked around and I said, oh my God, I just took on this massive responsibility, and the people that are going to pay for this are my children. It's going to be my children. Time with them is where I just gave up a lot. And so I made a decision that I would bring them along for the journey. Like, I would let this be something that could impact them. And that's how Fambundance was born. And that's why we started leading masterminds that were tailored to our members' families. And it's also why I started to do things like goal setting with my family and the miracle morning with my family. As I started saying, you know what, I'm going to start young. When they were 3 and 7 when we first started like doing the miracle morning together and setting goals as a family and asking them what their goals were. And so I think it's just through that that turning point of like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. Am I going to keep just building the next thing? Or am I going to actually think 1 generation, 2 generations, 3 generations down the road? And how can I set them all up for success? And it's not about, like you said, it's not about giving them any amount of money. In fact, Warren Buffett has been quoted as saying, give your kids enough to do anything, but not enough to do nothing. Yeah. So set them up with the education, set them up with the ability to learn what they need to learn from you, from the family. But don't give them the blank check. There's a book called Entrusted too, that's a good read about family legacy. And in there, they talk about giving your children the flint and the kindling, but not the fire. And you had mentioned like, they wouldn't be ready for it anyways. Like most people don't know what to do with $5 million, even if they got it, other than go spend as much of it as they can. So you have to really train somebody to be able to do that. And I often say your legacy is only as strong as the hands that you equip to carry it forward. So like you could be 100 million, 200 million, $1 billion, and thinking that you're building this all for your family. But if you haven't equipped your children to handle the pressures and the complexity and the taxing and the trusts and the all of the complexities, which are good problems to have to solve, by the way, because they mean that you've done well financially. But to expect kids who maybe haven't even got enough time with the person who created the wealth to somehow be able to learn how to handle that pressure, it's a real detriment. And I think the biggest, the best example of that were the Vanderbilts. They at one point were the richest family in the world, arguably. And today there's not a single millionaire with the last name Vanderbilt from that particular family, other than Anderson Cooper, who just happens to be a Vanderbilt, but he didn't get anything, no inheritance. He went out and built it all on their own. But there was a second generation of the Vanderbilts who was quoted as saying, like, nothing's left him more unhappy and with nothing to live for than inherited wealth. Like it was actually an impediment to him being able to find fulfillment and find what he needed, because everything was given to him. So he needed nothing, and he had nothing to offer anyone either at that point. So it can be a sad story. In that book, Entrusted, they actually call it affluenza, which is like a sickness that you pass along when you think you're setting your kids up, and you're actually destroying their lives because you're just passing them money, which is not what they need.
It's interesting. Like I had this conversation with Aaron and with a couple people this past weekend. We were in Scottsdale. Yeah. Oh, I just blanked on that for an event. And one of the people was talking about, wasn't one of the people at the event. It was somebody that we met there. A wealthy guy who was talking about units. He just kept talking about units and units and units. And we both asked him, like, what's the point of all those units? He said, leave them to my kids. They'll figure it out. And, we weren't in coach mode. So we were just like, oh, that's cool, man. Awesome. 5,000 units. That's a lot of units, 20, 50 millions, whatever. I don't know. And all we could think like is, man, those poor kids. And that's what reminded me, like, it's affluenza is like, it's a major detriment to those kids because you didn't do the things that they needed. So they don't know their place in the world. They don't understand any type of authenticity, because does the money bring the friends? I had this conversation with Justin Tucker from the kicker for the Ravens. His son and my daughter went to school together, and it's tough because you don't know who your real friends are. Like, is it the fame and the money, or is it that you like me? And that's a real thing. So, does the kid now have that? Like, do these people like me because I'm this guy's son and I have this kind of cash and this beach house and this Lambo? And if I didn't have any of these things, would they still like me? But if I didn't have these things, would I actually be valuable? And I'm too scared to find out. So then they just live in this like ether, this middle ground until they die and pass that on to the next generation. Most likely. Some of them definitely change it generation to go, but I don't know, man. That was something that I faced with money in my 20s. A lot of money was, who am I without this? And will anybody actually care? And I'm too scared to find out. Well, the universe said to me, oh, we'll show you. Here you go. We're going to open up the tap, and it's going to start draining, and you're not going to be able to keep up, and you're going to go to zero, and you're going to go to negative 800, and then you're going to rebuild from there, and you're going to learn a ton. And that's what happened. So then you decided that you wanted a framework, right? So like you were working on yourself, and there's the family was really a catalyst to springboard this thing. What happened next? Like, is that when you kind of came across Hal in the Miracle Morning and started working on?
Yeah, that came, we were at a One Life Fully Lived event, and we had been we saw Hal speak, and then we had done the Miracle Morning with our family. And then we saw him the next year at the same event. And my son, Tyler, went up to Hal and read his affirmations. And at the time he was, I think, 7 years old. And Lindsay had said, hey, we'd really love to help write a version of the book that's for kids and for families. And Hal was like, sure, let's do it. And so we were kind of like, whoa, like, oh. we don't know if we're ready to write a book on parenting, but we realized like we were just going to write a manual on how to do the Miracle Morning with your family, and also include in there, what we thought was sort of an operations manual for a family. Like, how do you sort of become a team and get intentional about it? And we did an okay job with that with the first version of the book, but just this last year, we realized like, man, we've learned so much in the last 5 years about parenting. And then we actually got to, through Fambundance, deliver live mastermind exercises where we facilitated families going through all of these different exercises like goal setting and family values and designing their family meetings and coming up with a bedtime ritual and a miracle morning ritual. And so we had all of this experience, and we looked at our book and we're like, wow, we really need to put out into the world these exercises so that we can impact families. And so we looked and said, you know what, let's rewrite the book. So we released a second edition and create a playbook that goes along with it, where the family can get together and they can co-create all of these things as a family. And we're big believers in it needing to be a co-creation, a collaboration. And so, now we've got the framework dialed in, and we've got Hal's platform and as well as the GoBundance and Fambundance communities to really spread this message to the world. And, I'd like to impact 1,000 families in the next year. That's kind of my big goal. And I want to challenge entrepreneurs too, because they oftentimes are leaving their families to go work on the legacy, and then they use their families as the excuse for why they're doing that. And then they don't really bring home the best of who they are. Oftentimes the family gets like the leftover Mike or the leftover Ian, whatever's left at the end of the day. And they don't carve out the time for their family. Just like we said, it's important to carve out the time for yourself. But what about the family? When are they going to actually learn what the values of the family are and what it means to be a McCarthy? And so we have the exercises in the book to do that. And in our family, those values become guiding principles for how we show up in the good times and the challenging times and even in the bad times. I'll tell a quick story because it really illustrates that this stuff works in a way. My daughter went away to a summer camp just this past year for the first time, and she was there for 7 days. And on the first night, we didn't notice, but she was trying to call us over and over again. And my wife and I missed all of the calls. And then we started to panic, like, oh my God, she got hurt and she's homesick and, what's going on? And we finally get a hold of her the next day after not sleeping very well. And sort of, we're all worried and anxious. We're really just trying to project our own childhood traumas onto her, right? Like thinking the worst. So we get her on the call and she says, no, Daddy, everything's fine. I'm having a blast. I'm here being a playful adventurer. And that's one of our family values. And I'm like, wow, like there it is. She's living it. And then she goes on to say, because I said to her, honey, we were really worried that you might have been homesick or something. And she goes, no, Daddy, but my roommate was homesick and I was a servant leader and I helped her to feel better about being homesick. And we were like, oh my gosh, like there she is out in the world, her first venture into the world for 7 days. And she's living our family values while she's at this camp. And then you realize like the earlier you start to do these things with your children and you start to teach them about values and about goal setting and about having collaborative meetings where you're appreciating each other and supporting one another, then they learn to value that and learn that their family is this safe space that they get to come to that helps them to become their best. And that's the mission that we're on, is to challenge entrepreneurs to bring some of that collaborative leadership home and really carve out the time to be intentional about the exercises that they do together with their families so that they can teach them what it's like to be a great team. And if you can lead a great team, you're going to go far in life. And if you can set goals and achieve them, you're going to go far in life. If you can have values that you know and you live by that are strong values, then you're going to do well in life. And so we just realized that we needed to do that for our own family first, but then we realized, I'm in a position where I lead a lot of men and a lot of entrepreneurs, either through Keller Williams or through GoBundance, and that, I needed to do this and make this my mission because I can and because it's important. And so we're fully dedicated to that mission.
Well, without puffing you up too much, I mean, I credit you and Lindsay for the type of parents that we are today. Not like 100%, but like you guys have a major piece of the way that we lead in this family and empower leadership in our kids. Now, my son's 18 months, so he's not, he's newer. But my daughter, and I shared this with Lindsay a couple of years ago, we were like, look, for everybody listening, you're not teaching your kids anything without showing them. You're not telling them anything. They're not going to listen to you. Oh, go do your affirmations. Oh, go write your goal. They're not going to do it. They're going to watch you do it, and you do it together. So my daughter, when she was 2, we started doing affirmations because she would sit in the sink next to me, literally in the sink, because I'd get up and I'd do affirmations and she would just watch me. And then when she learned how to talk, probably around 2 years old, like she started saying them. And I've got this really cute video. She's probably like 3 years old, and she's like screaming at the mirror, like empowered these affirmations, like I am smart, I am beautiful, I am confident. And like I watch her, we have a pool that has a really deep end, and I watched her 2 weeks ago. I live in California, so it's still open. She's like, Dad, I want to go in the deep end. And it was just her and I in the pool. And I said, sure. Well, let's go. And I kind of swam down in the middle, and she's like, what about my float? And I said, I don't think you need your float. I think you got this. And I watch her close her eyes, and this is her program. And I watch her mouth. I know I'm scared. And even though I'm scared, I know I can do this. And she jumped, and she got in, and she like hugged me. She's like, see, Dad, I knew I could do it. And I was like, I knew you could do it too. She goes, yeah, but all that matters is that I knew I could do it. And I said, yeah. She goes, that's my affirmation. Even though I'm scared, I know I can do this. And like the programming was a direct hit, which is awesome. And that comes from Miracle Morning for Families. Like it comes from the playbooks that you guys have written. I'm excited to read this new one because obviously she'll be 6 in about a month while we're recording this. And my son will be 2 in, I don't know, 4 months or 3 months, something like that. So this is something that excites me more than business because this is real legacy. The money doesn't matter if the kids aren't set up for success in the future as who they are, not what they have or what they do. That's real legacy. And that excites me because that's something that's a part of my mission and the Men on Purpose mission, which is to change things from the last generation and generations forward. You're the catalyst of that. Like the organizations with you, the work that you've done have influenced me, which now influence hundreds of thousands of men around the world. It came from your work in you. I wouldn't have been influenced by you if you didn't do that work on you. So I'm challenging all the guys out there to think about it. Who's watching you? You don't have to be in Mike's position. Like you don't have to be high level up in regional director and GoBundance president. It could just be your family. They're watching you every day. And you've got to make, like, I fail all the time with this. And I know you do too. We are not perfect by any means. However, there's an intentionality and a framework that we work within to make sure that the results are there. So if you don't lead anybody but yourself, and you have kids, know they're watching you and they're judging everything that you do, and they're gauging, and their traumas are being set and their future's being set. So this is perfect. And I am the leader of this family. Truthfully, I don't think I'm the leader of this family, dude. I think I'm the driver of this family. I think my wife's the leader of this family, for real. Like she leads this family. I kind of drive around and I'm in charge of the car, but she leads the charge. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, you got to all have cool. your roles, right? Everybody's a leader in their own way. If we do it, as we teach in the Miracle Morning for Parents and Families playbook, as we teach in there, it's really about everybody having the ability to be a leader in the family and for everybody's voices to matter equally. And you know what? I think the world is in a challenged place right now. I think most people would agree that there's a lot of division. There's a lot challenges that we face. And, the bottom line is, who's going to fix this? It's not going to be us, because we're getting older, and the problems are getting worse. If we're going to have a better earth with more compassion, with more unity, with more collaboration, with more abundance, it's really going to have to be our children that carry that torch. And so what are we doing to prepare them for the world that we're leaving them? Because the world that we're handing over to them is not that great of a legacy to be proud of. There's a lot of stuff going on. So what we have to do is start with the family. I really believe that healing our world and our society, I think it starts with a higher level of respect for the importance of family and really coming together in that way. Because I think strong families produce highly capable individuals, and highly capable individuals will go out and collaborate effectively with other highly capable individuals. And eventually, it's my highest hope, my wish, my prayer is that they will find a way to address so many of the challenges that we face as a species, as a society, as a country, as a world. So we've got a duty to do this. It's more important, like you said, the person who is driving, how many units they have. It's more important that he raises kids who are capable of solving problems than it is that he has another 10, 100, or 1,000 doors. Because at the end of the day, what's most important? You can't take it with you, and nobody gets out alive. So what's most important is that we keep this thing going and we make it as good as we can make it. We leave it better than we found it.
Yeah, man. And we're doing some collaboration with GoBundance organization and the Emerge and Ascend programs, which are sort of like the entry level positions to the GoBundance organization. I have been a part of the GoBundance organization for a long time, and it's interesting, as I evolved, the organization showed me a different side of it that was really valuable to me. And I was telling you, as a real estate agent, when I was in before, I was I felt like I felt like I didn't belong sometimes, and that was in me. It wasn't anything to do with you guys. But now as a leader of this mission for men out there, GoBundance is the place to be for me. You know what I mean? And I have this mission just lives with me in there. So I really I appreciate and applaud you for growing the organization to the place that you have. I'm grateful to you for being a leader for me, even though you didn't know it. But you were a leader, and you and Lindsay were leaders for my family when my family was looking for framework and understanding of how the hell do we do this? How do we become purposeful parents? How do we raise purposeful children? You guys gave us a lot of insight to that. So I'm forever grateful for that, man. And I support everything you guys are doing, and the mental purpose world does too.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate all the work you're doing to help that entry level part of GoBundance. We realized that we needed to not just work with high net worth individuals, but we needed to help men and women get to that point and then go beyond it. And so we appreciate the work you do with respect to that. I'll never forget doing the ropes course with you and with your wife in the FanBundance event. That you were so proud of her for getting up there and doing the thing that, even though it scared her, she still did it. And your kid got to watch that and see that. And so it's a beautiful thing, man. And GoBundance, it's not just me. Obviously, it's David Osborne and Pat Hyben and Tim Rode and Chris Ryan now as our CEO. But it's really the whole tribe, because just the way I spoke about leading the family, where everybody's a leader within that team, it's the same thing in GoBundance. We're all doing it together. It's a team effort, and we've been tribe driven and tribe led ever since we started, because we listen to our members, and we deliver what they want. And we are willing to keep evolving in order to stay in a position to be inspiring and to continue to mentor people at whatever level they might be at. So it's an honor to work with you in that way. And yeah.
Yo, I really I look forward to what the future holds. It's super bright, man. Like this involvement of us as men, as leaders, it's limitless possibilities. That's the best part. It's not our cash that's going to make change. It's like who we are and how we show up. And there's something so damn special about that. That excites me. You know, that really excites me. I'm excited for the winter event where Aaron and I are going to be speaking in January in Park City. Yeah.
Park City. Yep.
Yeah. And all the cool stuff we're doing with Ascend. Obviously we'll put all the GoBundance stuff in the show notes. For those of you that know the Men on Purpose stuff, like the Men on Purpose programs and the Front Runner programs are in the GoBundance world. And Aaron and I run the coaching programs for Ascend. And if you're interested, all that stuff will be in the show notes. So Mike, this has been awesome, man. Appreciate you having you on. And when's the book, or where can people get the book?
Yeah, if you go to Amazon, you can buy the Miracle Morning for Parents and Families second edition of the book, or you can also pick up the Miracle Morning for Parents and Families Playbook. They do not need to go together, by the way. If you're looking to really get into action, I would point you to the Playbook as the thing to get, because it's a standalone book and it's just filled with exercises that get you right into the action of building your legacy, like we talked about today. Yeah. And my wife has a website, a blog that she does called gratefulparent.com. And so that's another place. And then my website, personal website, is gomikemccarthy.com. If anybody's listening to this and they've got a group of entrepreneurs or salespeople or high-level executives that they would love this message to be delivered to them, I'm also on a mission to do virtual and in-person keynotes for the next year, just trying to impact 1,000 families. So I'd be honored to work with anybody who it resonates with this mission, and I would invite everyone to join me on this mission, because I think it's what can truly heal our society and our planet.
Yeah, agreed, man. Well, you're leading the charge, buddy, and it's happening. So I'm taking notes and I'm helping however I can. So thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate it. I know the audience will get a lot out of this. And audience, get out there, get all of Mike's stuff. Just order all of it. It's all going to be purposeful and useful for you. Go through it over the year. Make your 2022 like really on purpose, very intentional. You know, if 2021 ended for you and you're like, man, another year went by and I just didn't get what I wanted. I don't have the results. My kids are yelling at me. Like, make a conscious change. Be the leader that your family needs, because I guarantee you, besides just your inner family, there are people watching you all over the place. And you could affect change faster than you even know by just making that commitment to yourself to make some changes in how you show up. So you're doing great things, man. Really great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, what an honor and a pleasure it's been to have this conversation and this time with you. So I appreciate the opportunity. And even if just one family listens to our conversation and they make a change, like, it's all worth it. So.
Oh, 100%. All right, Mike McCarthy, thank you, my friend and audience. We will catch you on the next one.